you're going to see a lot of clefs and work with a lot of clefs in your career. You've got your treble clef, which you're familiar with, the bass clef, which you may be familiar with, and then the alto and the tenor clef, the movable clefs. Now, this may seem like a daunting proposition to you until you see what I'm going to show you. And if you watch it a few times, you'll train your eye to see the C's on all the clefs. And you'll learn to see the clefs as one big family deriving from the grand staff. Let's start with a note, which is just nothing. It's nothing. It's just a note. It has no meaning by itself until it's joined onto a clef. So there we have the treble clef. And you know that middle C is below the treble clef. It's the ledger line below the treble clef. We get rid of that, and we now can see that the same note is the ledger line above the bass clef. Well, that's kind of cool. So we can join those two clefs into the grand staff, where middle C falls smack dab in between the two. It's the ledger line below the treble and the ledger line above the bass. Now, here's the kicker. Here comes the alto clef. It's a movable clef where C, middle C, the very same C you just saw, is in that little crease in the middle of the alto clef. So in the alto clef, C is in the middle of the clef, but it's still the same C. Tenor clef, things move down. Get rid of that. Let's add another C. On the grand staff, it's great C or C3. And we would have never have any occasion to see it by itself on the treble clef, because clefs are there to avoid ledger lines. So now we can say, all right, well, how does it look on the alto clef? It's the same C right in the middle. And you can see that now it requires a ledger line down below. On the tenor clef, it's just the bottom space, or the space below the staff. But it's the same C as it had been. Let's add one more C. There's C5. It's a happy little thing up on the treble clef. Notice the C's. The C's are our lifeline. They are our lighthouses to these different staves. If we learn to see the C's, we're good to go. There are the two C's that we just added along with familiar middle C. Notice the symmetry. Get rid of that. Here comes the tenor clef. We'd never have occasion to see that higher C on the tenor clef, so I have not added the ledger lines. Again, here's the grand staff. We know what that's about. Look at those C's. And then there are these great big C's. Two ledger lines above the treble clef, two ledger lines below the bass clef. We'd never have occasion to see them on the alto clef. Too far away, defeating the point, at least not for now. Grand staff. So learning to see the C's is going to help you, because you can try to memorize all cows eat grass, every good boy deserves fudge all day long. But that limits you to one clef at a time, where if you could see all the C's on the grand staff and then understand how they go relative to the movable clefs, you will be way, way